All right, guys, let's go ahead and be honest for a minute here. This is the time of year that you got your bucket list. You got your bucket list, right? You know the stuff you want to do. You got your goals written out. Like, you can see the future right there standing. It's like, it's so close. You can almost touch it. You can taste it. It's so scrumptious, but you just don't know where to start, right? You don't know where to start. And there is the rub. There's the rub. But listen, one of those goals that you got, the bucket list goal, is to step on a stage. Step on the stage for the first time competing in a bodybuilding show, honey. Whether it is bikini, whether it is wellness, whether it is figure or women's physique, natural bodybuilding, or whatever it is that you want, honey, you want to get up on that stage. You want to shine because you have had this on your mind for a long time. But it's like, okay, girl, that's nice, but where do I start, right? What is the first step to making this goal and this dream become your reality? Well, that's what I want to talk about today, because if there's anything that I know what it's like to be in your position, because I was that way a number of years ago. Like back in 2010, I can remember being like, yeah, I gotta be up there. I gotta be on that stage. I've been watching bodybuilding for years and years, but taking the first step was scary. And I'll tell you what, I coached myself in my first years of training, and I won shows, first place, second place overall, and all that stuff. So I want to share with you some of the tips that you need to do and to take in order to have a successful first time out there. And even if you're someone who has stepped on stage before, maybe you are a little bit more seasoned, but you want to do it smarter and better, I think these tips are going to be able to help you to take it all to the next level. Let's go ahead and jump right in. The first thing you need to do, honey, okay, before you choose a show, before you choose a date, before you do anything, honey, you need to get real honest, okay? Because some of y'all don't realize that bodybuilding is not a weight loss competition, okay? Yes, you're going to lose weight in the process. You're going to be losing fat, but you need to have done the work already before you start even prepping for a show. I always like to say to a client, look, we don't want to have to move heaven and earth in order to get you ready for the stage. Our main goal needs to be holding on to as much muscle as we can as we get you leaner. And it's a lot easier when you're already close to that goal. So for some of you, you got to get real honest, rip the Band-Aid off, take a look at yourself in the mirror and see the things that you need to be improving right now before you even prep. So I'm talking about going on your weight loss journey now. I'm talking about losing that 20 pounds you already got to lose. I'm talking about going ahead and looking to see if you need to build up your shape a little bit, do a little bit of a building cycle before going into dieting, and to not be so excited about getting on stage that you're just willing to risk it all and just be crazy balls to the wall with your coaching and all this other stuff in order to just fulfill this goal that you have no idea how long it's really going to take for you to look good enough to step on that stage. I'm telling you right now, if you prep in less than 16 weeks or so for a show, you ain't giving yourself enough time as a beginner, okay? And before that 16 weeks even comes around, you need to make sure that that body is looking good, okay? It's lean. It's not show lean, but we can see some definition. You got a good shape. You got the muscles looking nice and tight. You don't have any extra fat that you really have to push to lose, that you're in a good place to start. That's the first thing, getting honest about where you are. And for a lot of you, that might mean hiring a coach and working with someone who can get you there before you prep. The second thing I think is really overrated, and that is you becoming a true fan of the sport. How you trying to go do a bodybuilding competition when you ain't never really seen a bodybuilding competition? All you've seen is pictures on the internet, and you've seen stuff that like inspires you or all that other, but you ain't never been to a show. Honey, you need to get to a show. You need to get to a show, make a trip of it, bring your girlfriends, bring your husband, your significant other, whoever you got, and go ahead and watch a show. Get familiar with what's going on the stage, what the atmosphere is like, and even what the judges may be looking for. A lot of folks think that politics and all this other stuff is what determines a show. And let me tell you, listen, I'm not saying it doesn't. It still goes on out there. But I think that the bodybuilding world nowadays offers so many opportunities for folks to step out there who are unheard of and do really well, even more so than when I was competing. And me pointing that out goes to show that when you start to understand how this sport actually works, what things look like in person don't always look like what they look like in pictures. Looking at somebody's single image on their Instagram feed never looks the same as seeing them competing against other people. You start to train your eye to know what the judges look for and what works for the division that you want to be in. And that's a powerful tool to have as a competitor. So get out, Be active participants in the bodybuilding world. Go see shows. And don't just look at your division. Look at all of them, both the men and the women, because the more you become familiar with what wins and what the judges look for, the better you're going to be as a competitor, no matter what division you're in. The next thing that you need to do, and this is specific for a lot of my ladies, you need to get over your head trauma and stuff like that when it comes to food, your relationship with food. I can't stress to you enough how important the mental game is in the bodybuilding competition world. I mean, sure, so many of you can go ahead, you can diet, you can train, you can do that all day. But the thing that trips you up is that you're always in your damn head about everything. You doubt yourself, you doubt your coach, you have problems with food, you have problems with eating, you're afraid of carbs, you're afraid of fats, you don't want to do this, you don't want to do that. So many of you have undercover eating disorders and eating issues. I mean, you got to get that out of the way, because bodybuilding as a sport is hard enough. It's hard on the body. It's hard on everything. The last thing you need is to bring your drama to your contest prep and to your coach, by the way, because child, we just want to see you do good, and you just be shooting yourself in the foot. You got to get over some of that stuff. So there are some deep-seated things that you got. You're obsessed with food. You're obsessed with numbers. You're obsessed with your body. Honey, handle that. Handle that first and then come on back, or do that in the process of trying to get ready for that date that's 16 weeks out from your show. But do not underestimate the mental importance of this sport. Next, consider hiring a coach before you start a contest prep. I don't mind working with people who come to me like, I have a show I want to do, so I want to go ahead and use you to get ready. That's fine and all. But I so much more appreciate it when I have someone who's like, I have a show that I want to do. I might be 6 months out from it. I might be a year from it, but I know I want to do this. And I know that I have to get my eating together, my diet, my training, and everything together before I start that process. So they come to me with the goal of wanting to step on the stage and do what they have to do, but they do it preemptively, ready to roll up their sleeves and get the work done to get their bodies in shape before they prep. And there's nothing wrong with that. Look, I was able to coach myself and to do it all on my own because by the time I started competing, I had already had 15 years of experience in the fitness world as a professional personal trainer and sports nutritionist. Like, I already had that under my belt. I was already helping other people from around the world and just in different sports and stuff like that to be in prime shape. And so for me to take on myself as my own client and guinea pig, I already have the skills for that. But most of you don't have that. And I'll tell you what, when I realized that I couldn't take myself any further, honey, I went ahead and got me a coach. In fact, I had 2 coaches in my entire career. Well, 3 if you count Charles Glass. He trained me back in Gold's Gym. Boy, was his workout like killer. He used to kill me. But it was so fruitful for me to be able to work with these guys that I respected in the industry. And I wouldn't trade that experience in the world. I turned pro and got to the Olympia stage because of my work with Kim Odo. I learned how my body can be pushed in its natural state by working with Eric Ledeen. So hiring these guys to work with me side by side at the point that I needed it was such an incredible gift for me as a competitor. I didn't have to think about things. I didn't have to really worry about the ins and outs of my programming. I could just focus on doing what they asked me to do and bring my best. And yes, I worked with them off season as well. And that is such an important and amazing investment in yourself as a competitor, particularly if you want to do this seriously, even as an amateur or whether you want to turn pro. So be smart, hire someone before you start that prep. Now, this next thing is really important. And I really want you to heed this, okay? And to plant this in the back of your brain. And no matter what anybody tells you, you draw your lines in the sand, you don't move past that line. And that is, you don't need to use steroids in order to be a successful competitor. Now, there are some caveats to this because steroid usage is so abundant in the fitness world in general today. You've got influencers and people who are personal trainers, fitness models, and more who use steroids to a great degree. And if they're not using steroids, they could be using other substances like research peptides, pro-hormones, and more. And they're just simply not telling you what they're using, all while posing as being natural athletes who are just working out and doing their thing, and they're looking great. And you are none the wiser looking at this, wondering why your body isn't doing the same thing. But then you might get wind of what the secrets of the industry are, and that everybody's using X, Y, and Z, And then you have some coach who's going to convince you to go ahead and use steroids before you even stepped on the stage in your first show, or even know what your body is capable of in its 100% natural, full potential and capacity. Look, guys, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that rampant steroid usage is going to be required for many of you who choose to turn pro or compete on the national level in specific organizations and federations. It almost goes hand in hand for so many of you. And it is at that point that you need to hey, draw your lines in the sand and know what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. And make sure that you are 100% okay with that. But to be told that this is the only way forward, that you got to start this right away, you first show out, you got to take this drug and that drug and have this cycle, run in the other direction. Tell them to go ahead and go kick rocks with open toe sandals or something, because it's your body and your health at the end of the day. And unless you want to run around here looking like a bunch of little manlets, which most of you don't want, you better be careful about what you put in your body. And the final thing that I'll say in what you need to do to get ready to do your first show, some steps you need to take initially, is to plan to prep with enough time. 12 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, for a lot of you is not enough time to get ready for a show. I really love to do 16 weeks for most clients. And for others, that might be even 20 weeks. It really just depends on the person, because bodybuilding, again, is not a weight loss competition. Your goal is to keep as much muscle as you can as you go ahead and lose fat. And when you are natural, or you're trying to stay as natural as possible, trying to limit that drug usage, you need time to do this. You need to actually take time. You need to go the slow, steady route and be able to fix things as you go along to make sure that you keep as much muscle as you can, which you're naturally going to lose when you're a natural athlete. So picking a show that gives you enough time to be able to do that the intelligent way is the best piece of advice I can give you when it comes to a timeline. You guys, I want you to realize how fulfilling the bodybuilding world can truly be. And whether you decide to step on the stage one time, or you go for the national level, or you go ahead and you get the opportunity to turn pro, it's really fulfilling. And you can be any age. You can be in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. We have divisions for everyone. We have age categories and classes for everyone. So if it is your goal, be realistic about where you are and go for it. It can be such a rewarding experience. Make sure you save your money, honey, because this stuff is expensive. Okay, listen, you're going to be paying a pretty penny, especially if you're coaching with someone like me who has a lot of experience and really takes personalized coaching seriously. But one of the things you might be asking is, well, Rox, yeah, that sounds great and I'm ready to go, but what division should I be in? Oh, honey, I got you covered. I want you to go ahead and check out this next video right over here. If you're confused as to where you should fit in, because I'm going to go ahead and clarify that for you just a little bit. I'll see you over there.